Remember Shovel Knight? 2014, the new generation of consoles released, and here you had this game that looked and felt and played like a Super NES title. But it didn't really. It felt like an old Super NES title, but it was actually fun to play. The limitations and style was self-imposed, and the developers made a very specific game they wanted to make, and somehow all these shiny new massive games releasing couldn't hold a candle to this old-ass looking game. That was 10 years ago. Nostalgia's caught up to the 6th generation of consoles, your GameCubes and PlayStation 2s. That's the only way I can explain the existence of Hi-Fi Rush, a video game which does everything you love and remember better than you love and remember. It's a rhythm action hack and slash character action game. Think Devil May Cry Hero, a masterclass in character action which harkens back to the simpler times, perfecting what came before. The concept for the game was pitched by John Johannes, the lead director of The Evil Within 2. Johannes has a genuinely intriguing career. Game Informer wrote an article about him, linked in the description below, but long story short, legendary horror director Shinji Mikami hired Johannes with no previous experience, then years later let him direct a whole ass game. Both Tango Gameworks and publisher Bethesda are known for their gritty or violent survival horror games. Hi-Fi Rush was the farthest thing from the brand, so a lot of higher-ups weren't exactly rooting for it. The demo was shown around the studio with people being shocked that it was being developed in-house. Internally, it was almost like a disgusting level of commitment to our product. The game spread like a dirty rumor around the studio. It even reached Bethesda's CEO, Todd Howard. More and more developers jumped on to work on it, including lead designer Masaki Yamada, who has previous experience on platinum hack and slash games. For this to work, everything needed to be perfect, deadlines and milestones needed to be hit, or the game would be cancelled. It was being developed alongside Tango Gameworks' main AAA title, Ghostwire Tokyo. Hi-Fi Rush was considered a side project with a smaller budget and fewer resources. After just one trailer and not much advertising from the publisher, Hi-Fi Rush just dropped on Game Pass on the 25th of January 2023. And it was so freaking good.
1, 2, 3, 4!
Hi-Fi Rush is set in a sci-fi dystopia where evil corporations rule all. You play as Chai, a 20-something wannabe rockstar undergoing a voluntary cybernetic limb replacement surgery run by evil tech company Vandalay Technologies. Chai's MP3 player accidentally winds up bonding to his chest during the surgery, turning him into a defect who is scheduled for disposal. The MP3 also changes Chai's perception of the world around him. Everything moves to a beat now. He teams up with a ragtag bunch of misfits, deconstructs every branch of the evil corporation, and saves the day. It's your standard stick-it-to-the-man rebellion plot that's enough for a video game. Chai's friends and enemies have so much character and charm without being unbearably annoying. Every robot you walk past has something fun to say, and there's always a tortured pun around the corner. The writing and humor here is very much of a type. It matches the tone and look so well. It's the opposite of pretentious. The dialogue is so confident with its cringe that it comes out the other side a hero. The cutscenes are a mix of in-engine and 2D animations that transition seamlessly. It just works. The cinematics are a bit long sometimes, keeping you from the meat and potatoes, which is the combat. This is why you're here. The colorful world and characters are a plus, but the combat is probably some of the best character action hack and slash combat I've ever had the honor of experiencing. The opening tutorial is a bit slow, but the game has a lot going on. Over the course of the first couple of hours, every time I went, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I had, and the game always answered yes. It's got dodges, grapples, air launchers, parries, literally anything you expect or want. Alongside that, you have partner assists. This is sort of like using your allies' abilities in the Guardians of the Galaxy game. Chai summons a friend who does a specific attack or damage type in between combos. These can be upgraded or modified. You also have different special attacks ranging from a massive AoE to a cheeky heal. There's a bunch of combos you can do with different effects. You can buy more from the store or sell the ones you don't really use. The entire play experience is customizable. It works on any level. Then there's the actual rhythm action part. Attacks do more damage when they're on beat. At the end of a combo, you've got the opportunity to do massive damage by nailing the final hit. Aside from listening out for the music, you can look around the game world as it moves in sync to the beat. And if that's too much, the HUD and your companion cat 808 pulses to the beat. All the animations sync up so you'll always hit an enemy on the beat. And if all that's too much, you can turn on the optional rhythm gauge, which lets you directly visualize the beat. This game genuinely made me better at listening to music and timing. The soundtrack helps. It's this drum and bass heavy punk rock playlist, making it easier to follow the beat. The game has a couple of licensed songs by the Black Keys and 9 Inch Nails that play at key points in the story. The rest are original songs composed in-house at Bethesda. Each boss has their own song, which is synced to the different stages in the boss fight. Games like this live or die based off their enemy design. Hi-Fi Rush is by no means perfect, and the enemy variety and design are just about enough. The game does keep throwing new enemies at you at a breakneck pace, but some are just small variations on others, like the default robot that attacks once or the same-ish looking robot that attacks twice. Some are really hard to distinguish in the heat of battle, and some are really annoying to fight. The good ones first. The bigger enemies have a stagger gauge which needs to be broken before you can do any damage. There's a bunch of these with their own challenge and even some one-offs. Now the less good is anyone who creates unfun problems. Enemies often have a specific armor like plasma shield or Z shielding, which requires a specific partner assist to break. The problem here is that most Z shielded enemies require 2 hits from Macaron, the slowest partner with the longest cooldown. You end up just running around waiting for Macaron to be ready again, then you miss because you're zooming around the arena. Also, anyone difficult to hit. These motorcycle enemies shield everyone else and never stay put. These bird enemies with multiple variants counter your grapple with a choke slam. These might be personal gripes, but they do give you something different to do during combat. The bosses, however, are outstanding. Each one is a different test. My only gripe here is that I wish there were more. The difficulty isn't really here. I beat most on my first try, except for one. In between levels, you return to the base of operations where you can hang out and buy upgrades. Once you beat the game, you unlock a bunch of different modes and customization. You can buy new outfits for Chai and the gang to replay levels with. First of the bonus modes is Rhythm Tower. This is your bloody palace. Defeat progressively harder enemies in a set amount of time. Gain extra time by being good and cool. Next is BPM Rush. Here the song speeds up every round. Survive till the end. Finally, there's Power Up Tower Up, which is a roguelite. You start off with your upgrades taken away, and at the end of each round you pick a bonus. Honestly, if this was the game, I would be happy, but it's a side mini game which you can literally play forever. Specifics: timing is everything. Light attacks take 1 beat to land, while heavy attacks take 2. The 2 main subcategories of hack and slash games, according to me, are dodge focus like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry *. Dodge focus hack and slash games have the camera further back, and the real fun is taking on hordes of enemies while whizzing around the combat arena. Parry focused games are more one-on-one, usually with a pitiful dodge which acts like a safer parry. These are more boss oriented, and learning to parry isn't optional. Here's where the asterisk comes in with DMC, which has the Royal Guard, a god tier block rather than a parry, which is one of the 4 totally optional fighting stances. DMC sorta does both, but Hi-Fi Rush literally does both. Chai has a pitiful dodge, however you're not supposed to dodge once. If you're on beat, Chai can dodge up to 3 times in a row, covering a lot of ground really fast. The parry only works when you're on beat. Most enemies can only be staggered by parrying until you unlock a late game power-up. Once you do enough damage, some enemies enter a high-risk, high-reward standoff, where if you parry every single blow, you can instantly take them out. Otherwise, it's quite a lot of damage. There's constant parry enemies and skill checks, which can be frustrating when you fail over and over and over again. The game is very forgiving, letting you try until you get it right, and even checkpointing you in the middle of a boss fight. The game even has an optional directional parry upgrade, which adds a 1.5 modifier to your score. Hi-Fi Rush looked at previous character action hack and slash games and said, yes, this is Bayonetta 2 levels of quality. The only real area the game is lacking is weapon variety, but I mean, Chernobog would feel out of place here. The world building and levels are as creative and vibrant as anything else in the game. Each level and music reflects the boss of the area. You go from an industrial factory setting to a music festival to an evil underground volcano lair. It feels old school in a good way. There's secrets and upgrades hidden around every corner, fun NPCs to talk to. In between combat arenas, you'll be platforming or solving puzzles. These you can take or leave. Most are QTEs, which are really easy to mess up. The platforming is definitely the weakest part. This comes down to Chai's jump. Traditionally, when a jump reaches its apex, there's a small glide period which makes platforming feel better and more forgiving. Chai has a very vertical jump, which is useful for air combat, but at the end he drops like a ton of bricks without any sort of glide period. You never really land where you think you should. A lot of platforming puzzles are time-based. Messing up at any point, you just have to wait for the timer to reset. Being all action all the time is unsustainable. These sections help with the pacing, but are just unpleasant and fairly linear. The game doesn't outstay its welcome. It's around 12 hours with a bunch of bonus activities and replayability, and it's on frickin' Game Pass, so it's your civic duty to check it out. Hi-Fi Rush is fantastic. It's what Edgar Wright wishes he could make. A game oozing with style and confidence with enough substance to back it up. It harkens back to older games without resting on nostalgia. It is everything it wants to be. An extreme rhythmic shot of adrenaline which left me feeling that Hi-Fi Rush.